pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello BookTube, I'm Shawn the Book Maniac. Welcome back to my channel. Here I am with a tag called, what is it called here? Book Postscript 2018, a new tag from Adam of Memento Mori, which he kindly tagged me on. Thank you, Adam. And it's just a great tag, so I just saw his video earlier today, and here I am with my responses. Sitting here, I think I would deeply disappoint Adam if I wasn't consuming alcohol. Tonight it is Nihonchu, or as you in the West would call it, Japanese sake. But the Japanese sake cups are ridiculously small, so let's be efficient, people, shall we? Number 1, the longest book you read this year, and the book that took you the longest to finish. The longest book I read this year was for Steve Donohue's read-along, Can You Forgive Her, by Anthony Trollope, which was a whopping 850 pages, and I did it on audio exclusively. Or did I? No, I did it as an audio-text combo. But yeah, 850 pages. It was wonderful. Absolutely loved it. I hope Steve's planning to do the next volume in the Palliser series in 2019, because I don't know if I could wait if he's not. And the book that took me the longest was the short story collection by Catherine Mansfield, The Garden Party and Other Stories. It took me 8 months. I just finished it the other day. I didn't have a good year with short stories. I know why it is. I did so many buddy reads, which was the highlight of my reading year, was all the buddy reads I did, but I was trying the Simon Savage approach, which is, he suggests doing one short story as a palate cleanser in between each novel or whatever other kind of book you read. That way you will be reading short stories throughout the year. And that was a great idea in theory, but because my buddy reading schedule was so tight, there just wasn't time. You know, I'd finish a book on Wednesday, and Thursday morning I'd be starting another buddy read, so it just didn't happen. So it took me 8 months, and I quite enjoyed it. Not as much as I thought I would, actually, but I did enjoy it. 4 stars. 2, a book you read in 2018 that was outside of your comfort zone. I didn't read very much that was outside of my comfort zone, and I am happy to report that I read a thriller that I loved in a 5-star way. This was a 1915 novel that I found out about in the Book of Forgotten Authors by Christopher Fowler, a book that generated a lot of reading for me after I finished reading it in the summer. And this novel is called Mischief by Charlotte Armstrong, and it's about a family that goes into New York City from some little city nearby for some function, and the family babysitter, I think the dad's sister was supposed to babysit, but she backed out at the last minute, so they scramble to get another babysitter, and the elevator man's sister is procured for that purpose, but they don't know who she is, and she comes to the hotel room and she seems a little strange. The mother's a little apprehensive, but she leaves her children in the hands of this unusual young woman, and it was a mistake. You should read the book. It was made into a movie, which was Virginia Woolf's first... Virginia Woolf. Marilyn Monroe's first movie. I don't remember the title of the movie, and I haven't seen the movie, but it was a good novel. I don't want to read another thriller anytime soon, but that was a good one. 3, how many books did you reread in 2018? This was a great question because I had to actually go back and count, and I was surprised how many I did read. 7 books. I will name them. I reread Ethan Frome by Edith Wharton. This novel, published in the 1960s from my home province of Saskatchewan in Canada. Why Shoot the Teacher by Max Braithwaite. Starting from Scratch, a Different Kind of Writer's Manual by Rita Mae Brown. A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. And the next 2 are thanks to Adam. First off, for his book film club, Lord of the Flies by William Golding. And secondly, The Comforters by Muriel Spark. This one was for a ongoing buddy read that I ended up bailing on soon after this book, because I'm sorry to say this in her centenary year, but I got really sick of Muriel Spark after about the 4th. I think I bailed on the 4th book. In sequence, this was her debut, so it was on the 3rd book. This was her first. The second one was Robinson, which I hated. And then even though Memento Mori was a book that I had loved when I read it 30 years ago. I just was fed up with Muriel Spark, and I abandoned the group buddy read, and I hope Adam still likes me. And Map and Lucia by E.F. Benson was also a reread and a buddy read with my good friend Leah in Canada. 4. Favorite reread of 2018. It's a tough call, but I would say A Month in the Country by J.L. Carr. I loved it in a 5-star way the first time 2 years ago, and so I'd have to give it 7.5 stars the second time. It's a perfect novel or novella. Just wonderful. But this would be a close second. I loved rereading this one too. This is Map and Lucia by E.F. Benson. But also really loved rereading Lord of the Flies after all those years. 5. A book you read for the first time in 2018 that you look forward to rereading in the future. I've got a few of those. More than I'm going to name here, but this was my top read for the first half of 2018, Freshwater by Akwaeke Emeze, a Nigerian Igbo Tamil American novelist. I loved it. Absolutely blew me out of the water for its narrative pyrotechnics and originality. But I want to reread it because I think there's more to get out of it, and I noticed a lot of people who saw my enthusiasm for it on this channel and read it themselves didn't love it in the same way that I did, or to the degree that I did, or didn't like it at all. And that happens, right? But also it's been getting rave reviews here, there, and everywhere. It's on a lot of best books of 2018 lists, but I want to reread it. And this time I think I'd like to do it as an audio text combo because she narrates the audiobook. So first of all, I'm an old fart and it takes me a while to get with the program. But secondly, when I read this novel, Akwaeke Emeze was obviously identifying as transgender, but on her Twitter page, she said that she was very comfortable with she pronouns as well as they. And so more recently, she has decided to go with exclusively they, them, and I forgot that when I recorded this video. So I will learn eventually, and it's the audiobook, so if I can get my hands on that. But look at that cover. I would also like to reread Quartet in Autumn by Barbara Pym, which was her last novel, and I read it for the first time this fall, and I loved it. It was such a different novel than her earlier stuff, but people say that it's even better on a reread, so I only have I'm reading all of her books in sequence. I think I've got 3 or 4 more, I can't remember, something like that. I will easily finish those next year, and then I'm going to start again and just keep I think I'll be rereading Barbara Pym for the rest of my life. Probably, I would have to say, depending on which day of the week you catch me on, Barbara Pym is my favorite writer. But Quartet in Autumn in particular, I'm really looking forward to rereading. And also Anthony Marra's second novel, The Tsar of Love and Techno. They're short stories that are linked. I would call it a novel myself, but this is a book that was not meant to be read alongside a bunch of other books. Most books that I read, that is not a problem, but it was with this, and so I think I will get a whole bunch more when I choose to sit down and read it exclusively for a second time. 6. Favorite single short story or novella that you read in 2018. I didn't do well with short stories this year, so nothing jumps out at me in my memory with that, but I read a ton of novellas, especially during novellas in November, and I will talk briefly about 2. One was this Kenyan novel, Ngugi wa Thiong'o's debut, Weep Not Child, which I read in November. Originally published, I think, in 1964. It's been on my shelf for a long time, and I've been wanting to read it after having enjoyed one of his volumes of memoir a couple of years ago. This novella was one of the most powerful works of African literature and one of the most powerful works of fiction that knit together social political concerns and characters that jump off the page, and it just gutted me. Just absolutely wonderful. I want to read every piece of everything he's ever written. I'm still it's a month later, and I'm still speechless. So weep not, child. But also, I'm not as speechless, but I was also almost as deeply affected by the Australian novella, The Spare Room by Helen Garner, which I did as a buddy read with Natalie of My Reading Days. And we did a joint review. I'll put a link in the show notes. And that novel about upper middle-aged, or maybe senior citizen, 60-something, late 50-something, single Australian woman whose close friend comes to visit her to receive alternate airy-fairy new age cancer treatments because she's at death's door, and she's putting all her money and all her hopes in this terrible charlatan snake oil salesman. And it's the story of that relationship and that trying time in their lives. But that novel fucked me up in a good way. 7 is the one that I struggled the most with. Mass Appeal, a book you liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. Anything that appeals to a wide variety of readers, I don't like myself. So I'm gonna be my precious, special little Shawn the Bookmaniac self and recommend a book that I think should appeal to a wide variety of readers. But unless you happen to see the videos I was putting out while I was reading it, none of you will have ever heard of unless you come from this country. And that is the Norwegian novel published in, I believe, 1926, Alberta and Jacob by Cora Sandell, the first of a trilogy. I read this for Women in Translation Month, and it was really powerful. Coming-of-age story about Alberta, who's growing up in a small town in the north of Norway, and I now understand that when you live in the north of Norway, the people in the south look down on you. You're kind of a hick. And with a distant father and a domineering mother and an adorable, rebellious brother, and Alberta doesn't quite know what to make of herself or how to be happy in those circumstances. And the writing is really good, or the translation, which is by Elizabeth Rocan. I loved her. I loved the way this story was told, and I think that out of all the books I've read this year, this is the one that the greatest majority of you out there would enjoy. So check it out. I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the trilogy. I have a buddy reader for the next two. I can't remember exactly who it is, but it's written down on my notes, but I can't check them because they're on this iPad I'm filming on, but I'm really looking forward to diving into Volume 2, hopefully early in 2019. 8. Specialized Appeal, a book you liked but would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. This one was a little bit easier. It was difficult to narrow it down because most of the books that I like, I'd be hesitant to recommend to just anyone. But the one I'm just decided to go with is a book that I'm not entirely sure how I feel about, and that is Some Hell by Patrick Nathan, his debut novel. I read it this year. It was a buddy read with Chris of Chris Bookish Cauldron. This is about a young American boy, I think he's about 14 or something, and he's just slowly coming out to himself, and his father commits suicide. And it's the aftermath of that tragedy as he is continuing to come to terms with his sexuality in the context of a shattered family. And both he and his mother are kind of the main characters, the point of view characters. I thought it was powerfully written. The ending was a little bit weird, but it didn't ruin the book for me like it did for Chris. I just think one more read of this and I'll be able to say more about it, but I don't think it's for everybody. Check out a Kindle preview or read some reviews of it, and it might be worth a try. I thought it was really compelling. Okay, now, so here's the difficult question, and I have to fess up here. Number 9, reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. Goals met, good bad memories, favorite videos you made, etc. These kind of questions make me uncomfortable, and it's just my personality. I love talking about myself, but in the context of my channel, I'm not really good at or comfortable with talking about my channel goals, or there's a bunch of booktube tags that have circulated recently that are about that, and I've shied away from them just because I just want to talk about books, and my channel is what it is, and you guys could probably tell me what my channel's about better than I can tell you what my channel's about. Steve Donahue made a great tag, and there's a few others that are like that, and it's just like, that's not really my style, to tell you what I'm all about or what my goals are or something. I don't really have any goals. I just follow my nose. So I didn't have any goals, so I met them. I don't have any bad memories. Good memories? I guess I'll fold that into favorite videos I made. So I think that some of the best videos I made, or the videos that I'm enjoyed making the most, were the collaborative videos. And I've done a lot of collaborative book reviews, and I did one back and forth book chat with Doris about West, the novel West by Karis Davies. That one, I think, was a singular achievement. I haven't seen that kind of a video. Back and forth discussion like that on BookTube before. I would like to do more like that. It is a time-consuming process, but I think it's worth it. I've also done some sitting here with my bookish friend discussion videos. I've now done 3, and those seem to be very popular, so I will do more of those. Single book reviews get the lowest number of hits, but I also find those extremely satisfying to do, and I feel that I'm getting better at doing them. So I will definitely be doing more and more of those. Here I'm saying that I shy away from talking about this kind of stuff, and I'm going blah 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 blah. It's just the sake talking, people. I think it was early this year that I stopped doing monthly wrap-ups because I kind of hated doing them, and I folded everything into Friday Reads, and that was definitely the right decision. I also stopped doing TBRs and book hauls at around the same time, and that was a mistake. TBRs I've done occasionally. I like doing them if it's for a specific readathon or a specific purpose, or occasionally a month-long TBR, even if I don't end up reading half of those books. It is fun on occasion. And the book hauls I love. And I know some people poo-poo book hauls. Well, I don't care about what you think. They're fabulous. And I love doing them. Oh, the Eric Carl Anderson birthday tag was a delight to organize and to see the results and to see how touched Eric was. That was definitely a highlight of my BookTube year. So I said more than I thought I would have to say, but that's my reflections on my year as a bookish content creator. I'm going to tag a bunch of people. Adam tagged a whole bunch, so I think these are people that weren't on that original list that I would love to see your answers. Heidi of My Reading Life. Ange of Beyond the Pages, Charlotte of Tired Mama Tries to Read, Ollie Bliss, Amy Yuki Vickers, Alex of Big Al Books, Sabrina of Unmanaged Mischief, Natalie of My Reading Days, and Jerry of Onyx Pages, Curtis of Curtis Books and Books, Brian of Bookish, and Cousin of Always Doing. Thanks for watching.